They laughed when I couldn't figure out how to use the banking app. I just stood there, holding the phone a little too long, squinting at the screen like it was written in another language. Ashley let out this soft little laugh, the kind she thought I wouldn't notice. "It's not that hard, Margaret," she said, reaching over and tapping the screen a few times. "You just log in. Balance is right there." I nodded like I understood. I didn't say anything. Daniel didn't even look up from his coffee. That was the part that stuck with me. Not the words. The silence. My own son sitting there like it was normal for his wife to talk to me like I was nothing. "Mom's never been good with this stuff," he added, almost casually, like he was explaining the weather. "Dad handled all the finances. I let them talk. Big mistake." They thought I didn't notice the way Ashley smirked when she handed the phone back to me. Like she'd just proven something. Like I was exactly what they said I was. Useless. I held the phone in my hands, stared at the numbers on the screen, then slowly locked it and set it down on the table. "Thank you," I said quietly. That was it. No argument. No correction. Nothing. Ashley leaned back in her chair, satisfied. Daniel took another sip of his coffee like the conversation was over. Like I'd been handled. They had no idea. The house was quiet that morning. Too quiet. The kind of quiet where people think they can say whatever they want because you're right there. And somehow invisible. Ashley started talking again, her voice lower now, but not low enough. "We really need to figure something out," she said. "This can't go on forever." I didn't move. Didn't react. Just listened. "She doesn't contribute," Ashley continued. "She doesn't understand anything about money, and we're the ones covering everything." Daniel sighed. Not defensive. Not protective. Just tired. "I know," he said. "I've been thinking about it." Thinking about what? I already knew. "Maybe it's time," Ashley said, her voice sharper now. "We can't keep pretending this works." I kept my eyes on the table. Hands folded. Calm. They thought I was too old to notice the shift. Too slow to understand what they were really saying. Too dependent to do anything about it. That was their second mistake. "We'll talk to her," Daniel said finally. "Get everything sorted. Make it official." Official. I almost smiled. Almost. But I didn't. I stayed quiet. Let them believe every word they were saying. Let them think they were in control. Because the truth was, I'd already seen everything I needed to see. Every transaction. Every transfer. Every quiet move they thought I'd never catch. I didn't say anything. Not yet. I just sat there, listening to my own son plan my future like I wasn't even in the room. And that's when I realized something. They weren't just underestimating me. They were depending on it. I stayed quiet for the rest of the morning. That was nothing new to them. They were used to it. Used to me nodding, smiling, staying out of the way. That was the version of me they understood. The version they were comfortable with. I washed my coffee cup slowly, listening to them move around the house like I was not even there. Cabinets opening. Keys jingling. Ashley's voice again, lighter now, like the hard part was already over. "We will handle it this weekend," she said. "It is better to do it quickly." Daniel agreed. Of course he did. He always did. I dried my hands and walked past them without a word. Ashley gave me a tight smile, the kind people use when they think they are being polite. "We will talk later, Margaret," she said. Not Mom. Not even pretending anymore. Just Margaret. I nodded once and kept walking. Upstairs, my room felt smaller than usual. Or maybe I just saw it differently now. A temporary space. That is what they had already decided it was. I sat on the edge of the bed and picked up my phone again. Same banking app. Same screen. Same numbers. I opened it without hesitation this time. No confusion. No hesitation. My fingers moved quickly, familiar. Years of habit do not disappear just because someone thinks you are too old. I scrolled through the account history, slow and careful. There it was again. Small transfers. Nothing dramatic. Nothing obvious. $50 here. $200 there. Always labeled clean. Always spaced out. They thought they were being smart. That I would never notice. That I would not understand. I leaned back slightly and let out a quiet breath. They had no idea how long I had been watching. It started 3 months ago. The first time I saw a number that did not feel right. I did not say anything then either. I just kept looking. Every day. Every transaction. Every pattern. I let them build their confidence. Let them believe they were in control. That I needed them. That everything ran through them. That was the story they told themselves. And I let it grow. Downstairs I heard Ashley laugh again. Loud this time. Comfortable. Secure. Like someone who thinks the outcome is already decided. Daniel joined in. That one hurt more than I expected. I sat there for a moment, phone still in my hand, listening to my own son laugh while planning to take everything from me. Then I locked the screen and placed the phone beside me. Calm. Still calm. That was important. Emotions make people careless. I had no intention of being careless. Not now. Not when everything was already in place. They thought they were preparing something for me this weekend. Papers. Conversations. Decisions. What they did not understand was that I had already prepared mine. Weeks ago. Quietly. Carefully. The way you do when you know exactly who you are dealing with. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the driveway where Daniel's car was parked. Ashley's car beside it. Both paid through the same system they thought I did not understand. That part almost made me smile. Almost. I stayed quiet. Let them talk. Let them plan. Let them believe they were about to take control of something that had never actually been theirs. The next 2 days passed exactly the way I expected. Quiet on the surface. Busy underneath. Ashley became unusually attentive, which only meant one thing. She thought she was close to getting what she wanted. She asked if I needed anything from the store. She offered to make dinner. She even asked about my sleep, her voice soft, almost sweet. It would have been convincing if I did not already know the plan. Daniel followed her lead. Not as obvious but present. He lingered longer in conversations, tried to sound patient, reasonable. Like he was preparing for something important. Something he needed me to agree to. I let them have it. Every bit of it. I smiled when they expected me to. I thanked them when they acted generous. I played the role so well that even I almost believed it for a second. Almost. But every night after the house went quiet, I went back to my phone. Back to the accounts. I watched everything. Not just the main balance. The linked accounts. The permissions. The access logs. Every login attempt. Every device connected. They thought adding themselves slowly would go unnoticed. That I would never question why their names started appearing where they did not belong. But I saw it all. Daniel's email attached to alerts. Ashley's phone authorized for transfers. Small steps. Careful ones. Designed to build control without raising suspicion. I sat in the dark one night, the screen lighting up my hands, and just watched the pattern unfold. It was almost impressive. If it had not been so predictable. That was when I finished what I had started weeks ago. Not in a rush. Not emotional. Just precise. I adjusted permissions. Quietly. Shifted primary control. Updated security layers they did not even know existed. Added alerts that went only to me. Locked certain functions behind verifications they could not pass. I did not remove them. That would have raised questions. I left everything exactly where it looked like it belonged. That was the key. Let them feel safe. Let them think nothing had changed. Because on the surface nothing had. By Friday afternoon the house felt different. Tighter. Like something was about to happen. Ashley spent most of the day on her laptop at the kitchen table, typing, reviewing, printing. Papers. I did not need to see them to know what they were. Daniel came home early. That almost never happened. He walked in, glanced at me, then quickly looked away. Guilt does that. Even when people try to hide it. We should sit down tomorrow morning, he said, keeping his tone casual. Talk through a few things. Just planning ahead. Planning ahead. I nodded. Of course, I said. Calm. Agreeable. Exactly what they expected. Ashley did not even look up from her screen, but I could see the small smile at the corner of her mouth. They thought this was going to be easy. That I would sit there, confused, maybe a little emotional, and sign whatever they placed in front of me. That I would trust them. That I had no choice. I went to bed early that night. Not because I was tired. Because I was ready. The phone sat on my nightstand silent still. Everything already in place. I did not need to check it again. I already knew what would happen next. They were preparing to take control. What they did not understand was simple. You cannot take control from someone who never gave it up in the first place. Saturday morning came quietly. No tension in the air. No raised voices. Just the sound of coffee brewing and papers being stacked neatly on the kitchen table. I walked in a few minutes after they sat down. Ashley had everything laid out already. Organized. Labeled. Clean. She looked up at me and smiled, the same careful smile she had been using all week. "Good morning, Margaret," she said. Daniel avoided my eyes again. That part had not changed. "Morning," I replied, taking my seat slowly, like I had all the time in the world. Because I did. Ashley slid a small stack of papers toward me. "We just want to go over a few things," she said, her voice calm, practiced. "Nothing complicated. Just to make sure everything is structured properly moving forward." Structured properly. I glanced down at the top page. Legal language. Clean formatting. Exactly what I expected. Power of attorney. Financial authorization. Access control. They had done their homework. I picked up the paper and held it a little too long, just like I had with the phone days earlier. Let them see what they wanted to see. Confusion. Hesitation. Age. "I do not really understand all of this," I said quietly, looking up at them. Ashley leaned forward immediately. "That is okay," she said, almost too quickly. "That is why we are here. We will handle everything for you. This just makes it easier." "Easier for who?" I nodded slowly. "And this means what, exactly?" Daniel finally spoke. "It just means we can help manage things. Pay bills. Handle accounts. Make sure everything runs smoothly." Runs smoothly. I let the silence stretch for a moment. Then I nodded again. "That sounds reasonable," I said. Ashley relaxed. I could see it in her shoulders. That small shift when someone thinks they have already won. She handed me a pen. "You can sign right there," she said, pointing to the line. I took the pen, turned it slightly in my fingers, looked at the paper one more time. Then I signed. No hesitation. No argument. Just a simple signature. Margaret Collins. Clean. Clear. Final. Ashley exhaled, almost like she had been holding her breath. Daniel leaned back in his chair, tension leaving his face. They thought it was done. That everything had just changed in their favor. That I had just handed them control. I placed the pen down gently and folded my hands on the table. "Is that everything?" I asked. Ashley smiled. "That is everything," she said. "We will take care of the rest." "Of course you will." Daniel stood up first. "I will log in later and start organizing things," he said, already reaching for his phone. Ashley gathered the papers quickly, stacking them with careful satisfaction. I watched them for a second. Just a second. Then I stood up as well. Calm. Unbothered. Exactly the way they expected. "All right," I said. "Let me know if you need anything." I turned and walked out of the kitchen before either of them could say anything else. Upstairs, I closed the door behind me and sat down on the edge of the bed. My phone was exactly where I left it. Silent. Waiting. I picked it up and unlocked it without thinking. The screen lit up instantly. Notifications already there. New login attempt. New device access. Daniel. Right on time. I stared at the screen for a moment. Then I tapped once. Just once. And waited. The notification stayed on the screen for a few seconds before another one appeared. Then another. Daniel was trying again. And again. I did not move. I just watched it happen. Each attempt logged. Each one denied. The system responded exactly the way I set it to. Calm. Silent. Absolute. Downstairs I heard movement. A chair scraping against the floor. Footsteps. Faster this time. "That is weird." Daniel's voice echoed faintly through the house. Confused. Not worried yet. Just confused. Ashley responded right away. "What do you mean?" A pause. Then sharper. "It is not letting me in," Daniel said. I could picture his face without even seeing it. Brows tightening. Jaw shifting. Trying to stay calm. Trying to make sense of something that did not match what he expected. I kept my eyes on the screen. Another alert. Unauthorized access attempt blocked. Exactly on schedule. Try again, Ashley said. More urgency now. Less control. Another. Pause. Longer this time. Then footsteps again. Faster. Coming closer. I set the phone down gently on the bed and stood up just as the knock came at my door. 2 quick knocks. Not patient. Not polite. Mom. Daniel's voice. I walked over and opened the door slowly. Calm. Same as always. Yes, I said. He was holding his phone in his hand, screen still lit. Ashley stood just behind him, her expression tight, controlled but cracking at the edges. There is something wrong with the accounts, Daniel said. He tried to sound neutral, but the strain was already there. It is not letting me log in. I looked at him for a second, just a second, then back at the phone in his hand. Oh, I said softly. That is strange. Ashley stepped forward slightly. Did you change anything? She asked. Careful tone. Controlled. Still trying to keep the upper hand. I shook my head slowly. No, I said. I do not think so. They looked at each other. That silent exchange again. But this time it was different. Not confident. Not calculated. This time it was uncertainty. Daniel tried again right there in front of me. I could hear the slight tap of his finger on the screen. Then the pause. Then his expression changed. Subtle but clear. It says access restricted, he said. His voice dropped lower. Restricted by primary account holder. The silence that followed was heavier than anything they had said all week. Ashley frowned. That does not make sense, she said quickly. You have access now. She signed everything. She said it like a fact. Like something that should have already changed reality. But reality does not change that easily. I leaned slightly against the doorframe, watching them. Still calm. Still quiet. Maybe you should try later, I said. Daniel looked up at me then. Really looked at me. For the first time in days. Maybe longer. Mom, he said slowly. Are you sure you did not update anything? I held his gaze. Did not look away. I did not say that, I replied. His expression shifted again. Confusion turning into something else. Something closer to concern. Ashley stepped in again, sharper this time. What does that mean? She asked. I did not answer right away. I just walked past them, back into the room, and picked up my phone from the bed. The screen lit up as soon as I touched it. I turned it slightly so they could see it. Notifications. Access logs. Controls. All of it. Still in my hands. Exactly where it had always been. It means, I said quietly, you should have asked before assuming anything belonged to you. For a moment, neither of them said anything. They just stared at the screen in my hand like it was something they had never seen before. Not because it was complicated. Because it was not supposed to be mine anymore. Daniel blinked first. That is not possible, he said. But his voice did not carry the same confidence it had earlier. Not even close. Ashley stepped closer, her eyes narrowing as she tried to read the details on my phone. You signed the documents, she said, sharper now. You gave us control. I tilted the phone slightly, then lowered it back down. No, I said calmly. I signed what you put in front of me. That was different. And they knew it. I could see it in the way Daniel's expression shifted again. Pieces starting to move in his head. Not fully there yet, but getting close. What did you do? He asked. This time there was no attempt to sound casual. Just direct. I held his gaze for a second. Then I walked past them again, back toward the hallway, expecting them to follow. They did. Of course they did. People always follow when they feel like they are losing control. I stopped at the small desk near the stairs where I kept a few folders. Nothing hidden. Nothing locked away. Just simple, organized paperwork. The kind they never bothered to look at before. I picked up one folder and opened it slowly. You spent a lot of time preparing those papers, I said, flipping through a few pages. Power of attorney. Financial access. Very thorough. Ashley crossed her arms. Defensive now. Yes, we did. So that we could help you. Help me. I nodded slightly. And while you were doing that, I continued, I was doing the same. I turned the folder around and placed it on the desk so they could see. Not complicated. Just clear. Account ownership confirmations. primary holder verification, updated authorization structures, dates, signatures, all mine. Daniel stepped closer, his eyes scanning the page quickly, then slower, then stopping completely. When did you? He started but could not finish the sentence. Weeks ago, I said. Simple. Honest. Right around the time I noticed the transfers. That word landed exactly the way I expected it to. Transfers. Ashley's face changed immediately. What transfers? She asked too quickly. Too defensive. I did not even look at her. I kept my eyes on Daniel. The small ones, I said. The ones you thought I would not notice. The silence that followed was different this time. Not confusion. Not uncertainty. This was exposure. Daniel looked at Ashley. Ashley looked back at him. No words. But everything was there. I closed the folder gently. You assumed I did not understand money, I said. That I needed you to manage things for me. I paused. Let that settle. Then added. That was your first mistake. Ashley shook her head slightly. Even if that is true, you still signed. Legally, we have access. I finished for her. Then I shook my head. No. You have permission to request access. That is all. Daniel looked back at his phone, then at mine, then back at the folder. He was starting to understand now. Slowly. Painfully. Primary control never changed, I said quietly. It never left me. Ashley's voice rose just a little. That is not what the documents say. I met her eyes for the first time. Calm. Steady. Then you should have read them more carefully. That one hit. I could see it. Not just frustration. Realization. They had rushed. Assumed. Believed what they wanted to believe. And now they were standing in front of the one thing they never planned for. Me not being what they thought I was. Daniel stepped back like the floor had shifted under him. Not dramatically. Just enough to show he was no longer sure where he stood. Ashley did not move at all. She stayed right where she was, arms crossed, jaw tight, eyes locked on me like she was trying to force the situation back into something she could control. This is not how this works, she said, her voice sharper now, the calm tone completely gone. I did not respond right away. I let her words sit there. Let the silence stretch just long enough to make it uncomfortable. It is exactly how it works, I said finally. Quiet. Steady. No emotion. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, pacing once. Across the hallway before stopping again. Mom, he said, slower this time like he was choosing every word carefully. Why would you do this? That question almost made me laugh. Not because it was funny, because of how late it came. Why would I do what? I asked. He gestured vaguely between the phone, the folder, everything. All of this. Locking us out. Setting this up. I looked at him for a long second. Then I answered. Because you already made your decision, I said. His brow tightened. What decision? Ashley cut in before I could answer. We were trying to help you, she said louder now. You cannot manage all of this on your own. You said yourself you did not understand half of it. I turned to her slowly. No, I said. I let you believe that. That landed harder than anything else so far. I could see it in the way her expression faltered for just a second. Just enough. Daniel looked between us, trying to catch up. So all of this you were pretending, he asked. I did not answer right away. I did not need to. The silence said enough. I walked past them again, back into the living room this time, and sat down like it was any other morning. Calm. Familiar. Normal. They followed again. Of course they did. Ashley spoke first this time. You cannot just shut us out, she said. We live here. We are part of this. I looked up at her. You live here, I said. That part is true. Then I paused. Just long enough. But being part of something requires trust. Daniel stopped moving completely. We never did anything to break your trust, he said quickly. Too quickly. I held his gaze. You started moving money without telling me, I said. You planned to take control without asking me. You sat at that table and talked about my future like I was not even in the room. Each sentence slower than the last. Clear. Direct. No anger. That made it worse. Ashley opened her mouth to respond, then stopped. No words came out this time. Daniel looked down at the floor, then back at me. We were just trying to organize things, he said, but even he did not sound convinced anymore. I nodded slightly. That is what you told yourselves, I said. Then I leaned back in my chair, completely at ease. But you were not organizing anything, I continued. You were positioning yourselves. The room went quiet again. Heavier this time. No confusion left. No pretending. Just the truth sitting right there between us. Ashley finally spoke again, but her voice was lower now. Controlled. Careful. So what happens now? She asked. I looked at both of them. Really looked this time. No hesitation. No softness. Now, I said. Now you both learn what it feels like to not be in control. Daniel did not respond right away. He just stood there, staring at me like he was trying to recognize someone he thought he already knew. Ashley, on the other hand, recovered faster. She always did. This is not realistic, she said, her voice tight but controlled. You cannot just cut us out like this and expect everything to keep running. I tilted my head slightly. Everything is running, I said. Exactly the way it should. That only made it worse. I could see it in her face. The frustration building because nothing was breaking. Nothing was falling apart the way she expected it to. Daniel finally sat down across from me, slower this time. Careful. What do you want, Mom? He asked. That question was different. Not defensive. Not dismissive. Just unsure. I looked at him for a moment. Then I answered. I want honesty, I said. Something you both decided I did not deserve. Ashley let out a small breath, almost a laugh, but there was no humor in it. We were being practical, she said. Someone had to be. I shook my head once. No, I said. You were being opportunistic. That word landed hard. She did not deny it this time. She just looked away for a second, then back at me. Daniel leaned forward slightly. So what happens now? He asked again, quieter. I folded my hands in my lap. Calm. Certain. Now, I said. We reset everything. Ashley frowned. Reset. I nodded. You no longer have access to any accounts, I said. Not partial. Not temporary. None. Daniel's shoulders dropped slightly. Not dramatic. Just enough to show it hit him. Bills will be paid, I continued. Expenses will be handled. You will not need to worry about that. Ashley stepped forward again. And us? She asked. Direct. I met her eyes. You contribute, I said. Your share. Clear. Transparent. No assumptions. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. That was new. Daniel spoke instead. And if we do not? He asked. I did not raise my voice. I did not change my tone. Then you find somewhere else to live, I said. Simple. Final. The room went completely still. No movement. No sound. Just that sentence sitting there, impossible to ignore. Ashley's expression hardened immediately. You would not do that, she said. But it was not a statement. It was a test. I held her gaze without blinking. Try me, I said quietly. That was the moment everything shifted. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just clearly. The balance they thought they had was gone. Daniel looked between us, then back at me. This is still our home, he said, but there was no confidence left behind the words. I nodded once. It always was, I said. You just forgot whose name is on it. Another silence. Heavier than the last. Ashley looked around the room like she was seeing it differently for the first time. Not as something she controlled, but as something she could lose. I stood up slowly, smoothing my hands against my sweater like it was any normal morning. I am not taking anything from you, I said. I am just putting everything back where it belongs. I picked up my phone from the table and glanced at the screen one more time. All accounts secure. All permissions unchanged. Exactly as intended. Then I looked back at them. Calm. Certain. Finished. You thought I needed you, I said. That was your mistake. The rest of that day moved slower than usual. Not because anything changed on the outside, but because everything had already changed underneath. Daniel barely spoke. He stayed in the living room most of the afternoon, his phone in his hand, checking it over and over like the result might somehow be different the next time. It never was. Ashley kept herself busy in the kitchen, opening cabinets, closing them, moving things that did not need to be moved. Controlled movements. Tight energy. The kind that comes from someone trying not to lose control completely. I did not interrupt them. I did not explain anything further. I had already said everything that needed to be said. By evening, the house felt different. Quieter but not peaceful. Just aware. Every step, every glance, every small movement carried weight now. Daniel finally approached me again as I sat in my usual chair. "Mom," he said, his voice lower than before, "we can fix this." I looked up at him slowly. "Fix what?" I asked. He hesitated. That was new. "Whatever this is," he said. "We got off track, but we can work it out." I studied his face for a moment. Not anger. Not arrogance. Just discomfort. Maybe even regret. But not enough. Not yet. "You are not trying to fix anything," I said calmly. "You are trying to get things back the way they were." He did not argue. That told me everything. Ashley joined him a second later, standing just slightly behind, like she was measuring every word before deciding whether to speak. "We made a mistake," she said finally. The words were correct. The tone was not. I nodded once. "Yes," I said. "You did." Silence again. Then Daniel asked the only question that mattered. "What do we need to do?" That was the first honest question I had heard from him in days. Maybe longer. I leaned back slightly, considering it. Not because I did not know the answer. Because I wanted him to understand it. "You start by being transparent," I said. "Every dollar. Every decision. No more assumptions." He nodded quickly. "Okay." Too quickly. I held up a hand slightly. "And you understand something else," I continued. "This does not go back to what it was before. That version is gone." Ashley shifted at that. Uncomfortable. "Good. We are still family," she said, almost cautiously. I looked at her. "Family is not a word you use when it is convenient," I said. "It is something you prove." Neither of them had anything to say to that. The room stayed quiet for a long moment. Then I stood up, steady, unhurried, and walked toward the stairs. Halfway up, I stopped and looked back at them one last time. They were standing there together, but not united. Not anymore. Just two people realizing they had misunderstood everything. "You thought I was useless," I said. My voice did not rise. It did not need to. But I was the one holding everything together the entire time. I paused just long enough for that to settle. Then I added, "And now I decide what happens next." I turned and continued upstairs without waiting for a response. This time they did not follow.